Hi, I'm Susie, and I hate my sick cousin, Mary. We were always fighting each other, always fighting and competing, and every battle I tried to win. But one day, my luck stopped smiling down on me. Just so you understand, Mary and I are cousins, but we lived next door to each other all our lives and saw each other almost every day. I looked at the new trends at the most expensive stores in town every day, and no matter how exclusive the item was, it came out that Mary had the same thing. We looked ridiculous walking out of the house in the same outfit. I would blush with anger, go to change clothes again, and Mary and I would run into each other in the same clothes once again. It could happen 4 times a day. But that was far from the end of it. Mary and I tried our best to do any task better than the other, like cooking a meat pie, for instance. Man, that was something. We trashed the whole house just to make a bigger and better pie. I made it about 6'2", and it almost broke the oven. But Mary beat me to it by 3 millimeters, so that was a shame. But then something really bad happened. Since I was 2 years younger than her, Mary's parents decided to give me her entire old closet. It was horrible. I wasn't prepared for that. No one paid attention to my tantrums. All my mom said was that she had the stuff in excellent quality and condition. She'd only worn them a couple of times. "Let's take it to the dry cleaner and we'll be done, especially since you have the same brands," my mom said. You should have seen Mary's face at that moment. She was gloating so much that it looked as if she had grown horns like the devil in an instant. But I decided to go to the bank, sneaked in at night. She never closed her bedroom window when she slept. I broke all her makeup, all of it, and I took off like a ninja. Of course, she had a concert afterwards, but I was still glad. For 3 long days, she didn't do anything, and I was kind of wary, and for good reason. My parents came up to me and told me that Mary was terminally ill, so they were giving her all the money they had saved all year from my trip to Romania. "Don't you understand that this is a blatant lie?" I yelled, but that was called insensitive and shameless, saying that my cousin was in such a state, and I was only thinking of myself. But most humiliating of all, Dad gave me an envelope of money and sent it to Mary's house for me to deliver it in person. Gritting my teeth, I walked toward her stable. In her spare time, she hung out there with her favorite horse. I walked in, and her dumb mare immediately panted. "Hush, Spirit. I know Susie's nasty too, but she's my cousin. What can you do?" Mary said. "You don't look terminally ill. And you don't look like a sympathetic cousin. What have you come for? Clearly not to look at your mare. How does she lift you up? You're so full of hypocrisy and lies. You're one to talk. That was my most expensive makeup, but you're too proud to accept my brand name clothing for nothing." I threw the envelope at her feet. "Here, it's my travel money. You took away my dream. Be happy. Just in time to buy some makeup." I turned around and walked toward the exit. "Hey, Susie?" "What's up?" "Thanks for the money. I promise I'll only buy the most expensive stuff." "Fuck you." I gave her the middle finger and walked out. My parents went to visit her every day and started coddling her. That pissed me off even more. Then my dad told me that 20% of my allowance had to be cut, all to help their beloved niece. Well, that was too much. I got so mad and decided to hit my cousin where it hurt. In the evening, when she came into her room, she saw splinters instead of figurines in honor of her mare. I had destroyed all her medals, diplomas, and photos, and left the debris in the middle of the room. Yes, I wanted her to realize that it was me, her favorite cousin. I fell asleep full of anger and contentment at the same time, but in the morning I was awakened by a text message. There was a picture. Mary had sent a picture of my ex-boyfriend with her. She was kissing him. The message was disappearing, and out of shock, I didn't even have time to take a screenshot or save it. The bitch knew I still had a thing for him, but she stooped to such a lowliness. That's when I thought, that was it. I had given up. I couldn't fight her anymore. I couldn't make plans. I couldn't seek revenge. I was just tired and sat in my room. I was ready to lose, just not to be a part of this anymore. But then my mother showed up again. "Honey, I'm having a serious conversation. I know we've limited you in so many ways, but it's all about saving your cousin. She's still so young." Mom started to cry. I looked at her with a bored expression and asked closer to the point. "Mary asked to borrow your car. The thing is, her car is sold and she needs to go to the hospital a lot." And I was like, "What? Are you all blind? Can't you see how she's manipulating all of you? Mom, you can't give her my car. How am I supposed to drive? And my mom so calmly said, on the bus, and took my keys from the table. I knew that the most drastic methods were needed here, so I took the keys from my mom and said I would take her myself. My mother came with me, wanting to put the imaginary sick person in, and as soon as we got in the house, I immediately punched Mary in the face and threw my keys in her face. Yep, the reaction was expected. I went home, where I got my ass kicked, but that was part of the plan. I just needed to buy some time while I finished the rest of my business. A day later, I apologized to my parents, to Mary's parents, to her, cried a little, said I was jealous of my folks. Everyone believed me. Well, afterward, she invited everyone to a reconciliatory dinner at a restaurant. At first, it was nice, a family dinner in a beautiful setting, and I started asking Mary questions about her medical condition, about specific tests and treatments. She clearly stammered and then pretended to have a headache. Mary was freaking out. She defiantly pulled out my car keys and said she wanted some air, a ride, so I got up from my seat and called her to the window. There, waiting for her outside, was Spirit. She yelled what he was doing here. How dare I take him out? He had a bad leg. Tell everyone the truth, or that guy over there will let your mare go and you won't likely see her for the next few hours. Mean, yes, I agree, but her behavior was even worse. Is this all because of your ex? He was hitting on me. I was blowing him off for you. And then what? You agreed to go out with him? You know how I feel about him. Let my horse go home. Tell everyone the truth. We clutched at each other's hair. My parents were shocked. They started pulling us apart. I felt like I was losing a few pieces of my hair. Then the waiters, the receptionist, and security came running in. They threatened to call the police, and Mary yelled out, "Okay, that's it! I can't take it anymore!" And she said, "I'm not sick, okay? I faked the tests. I bribed the doctors. That's it! Are you happy, Susie?" "Go on. What else have you done?" "You're no better than me. You ruined my clothes, my makeup. You took out my sick horse. How could you even think of doing something like that? Did you decide to manipulate him? You wanted me to confess in public. Here I am. There, you see, Daddy and Mommy? There is the truth. I told you it wasn't real. She's just a disgusting liar. Shut up already. Everyone here understands." But our folks were silent. They didn't seem surprised. Then my mother came up to me and said that they had done it all. "Did what?" I asked. They sat us down at the table and told us that they'd agreed in advance to actions to get us both out in the open. It turned out that it was my mother who had offered to give away my car. Mary's mother had chipped away at the rest of the makeup I hadn't touched. Her father had played along with the doctors when he found out about the fake diagnosis, and my dad had offered to take my money and give it to Mary. We wondered, why would they do that? To piss us off even more? But our parents said that they were tired of our conflicts themselves, that they wanted to finally bring it all to a conclusion so that we would realize, no matter how much we argued, we were both good. At one point, I even felt ashamed of myself. I got my car back, my money back. My parents made amends and told us we were going to work it out. We were punished with chores. For things we'd done, for lying, we now did joint cleaning at each other's house for a whole year. We were deprived of 50% of our pocket money. That's how much our work cost us. Mary and I didn't become best friends, but at least we stopped hurting each other. It was cheaper to communicate than to feud. What would you do if you were us?
I always thought I knew my family well. Everyone has their own secrets. But we try to live without them, especially when it comes to something important. My mother raised us like this. We trusted her and my sister, but then it turned out that I was wrong. That after all, my little sister Anna had something to hide, and when I revealed her secret, I was confused, because it was shocking. My name is Frankie, as I said, and I have a little sister, Anna, who's very sweet and kind, or so I thought. My parents and I thought she was almost a dandelion. Since I was a child, my father told me to stand up for her, to protect her always, to be there for her, and to be able to listen. Because I'm her own person, and the only one who wants only the best. You understand that it doesn't always work out that people we call friends always be with us. This is life. There's nothing bad or good here. It's just normal and you need to accept it. I remembered my parents' instructions, and I always try to do my duty as a brother. When Anna was growing up, we watched it with emotion because she was the youngest child. We have a small age difference of 3 years, but it still strengthened my position as the senior in the house. So one day, when we went to school with her, we were almost hit by a car on the way there. I was so scared, but I reacted quickly, pushing her to the side of the road. Anna fell straight into the mud, but she wasn't hurt. I was fine too. I remembered the car. I wanted to go to the police, but Anna dissuaded me. She said that it was some kind of jerk, and that it wasn't worth it. I listened to her, and I shouldn't have. Around the same time, we began to notice that Anna was separating from us. She spent more and more time alone in the room, and often began to go out for a walk. I understood that she was a teenager. Apparently, there were friends, interests, and so on. We didn't want to limit or intrude too much into her personal space, but the more we kept quiet, the more she had a life of her own. I never tried to talk to her. Maybe something's bothering her. But she just smiled back at me, and that's it. Anna liked to run to the house in our yard, where we kept unnecessary junk. But Sister cleaned it up properly, made it cozy, and she went there with her friends. Sometimes they all spent the night there. My mother occasionally visited there, but Anna did not like it, so we tried not to disturb her once again. Our distance from each other worried me. I could feel something happening, but I couldn't figure out what it was. Almost 6 months had passed in this way. Anna was completely different. She was no longer the same cheerful girl, and one day, I decided to pick her up after school. I went to pick her up in class, but the teacher said that she hadn't shown up for school for 3 days. Yes, I'm sorry. I stopped by out of habit. I forgot. She's sick. I'm sorry, Miss Travel. She'll be here tomorrow. I said to the teacher, and I left. I had to lie so she wouldn't call the parents. I was already seriously worried, which meant that something had happened, and I needed to find out what it was. The first thing I did was go to her friend Barbara's house, where they'd been friends for several years. When she saw me, she was surprised. We just talked to her on the phone yesterday. She said that she was at home, that everything was fine. She said that she would do her homework because today she has a chemistry test. Barb said. My sense of unease was transmitted to her. Her friend said that Anna had changed a lot. She's become secretive since she met a guy named Brad. I immediately asked who he was and where he came from, but according to her, my little sister didn't really want to talk about him. They spent a lot of time together, so for the last 3 weeks, we haven't even met once. Just talked on the phone, she said. I decided to find him. But there was so little information that I realized that it was possible that I would find something in her room. I went home and told my mother that Anna had gone to visit Barbara, and I went to my sister's room secretly. I quickly searched the room, but found nothing special, absolutely nothing. However, the only thing that I noticed was some kind of book, or rather a notebook with numbers. What they meant, I didn't understand. I took it with me, and then I abruptly remembered about the house in the yard. I went there and saw a combination lock with a hesitant movement. I tried to enter the numbers combination, but everything was wrong. For 20 minutes, I tried to open it and even break down the door, but nothing happened. I sat down on the ground, and I began to think, what is it that she installed a combination lock? And then suddenly, I felt her notebook in my pocket. I tried a few numbers, and voila, the door opened. I went in there and turned on the light. In general, everything looked the same as always, just a little dirty. After a little digging, I suddenly noticed the shoes. They were men's shoes, and Brad came to mind. Ugh, I didn't even want to think about him being here. I checked the wardrobe, the sofa, the table, but there was nothing special, and before I left, I tripped over the shoes and almost fell, hitting the wall next to the TV. I clicked on something, and I heard a click. The head immediately turned to the side of the door. Only now I noticed that the recess in the shape of the door was different in color from the main wall. As soon as I opened it, almost fell in a small opening, like a tiny room. I saw a weapon. Oh, my God. Sis, where are you going? I thought. I didn't take it with my bare hands, so I took Anna's t-shirt, wrapped it up, and took it back to me. I had my things in a safe place, along with my notebook. Almost as soon as I walked in, my mom asked me to call Anna, and she told me the news. There was a murder in the city, and it happened just a couple blocks away. I was worried. I called Anna, but she didn't answer, and a moment later, she appeared on the doorstep. She behaved so naturally and sat down at the table and began to ask what was for lunch. My mother asked me about school, and I sat there and listened to how easy it was for her to lie. I didn't know how to talk to her, where to start, and then a couple of hours later, she said that a friend had come to visit her and she wanted to go. My mother only allowed me a stand outside the house, and Anna agreed. When the car arrived, I recognized it. It was the sedan that almost hit us on the road. They went into the house. In the yard, I followed them. He was so ugly, older than her, and my heart sank. I couldn't help but rush in, grab him by the collar, and push him against the wall, and the door opened. Anna nervously cast a glance there, and he asked, Where? Where is he? Not even paying attention to the fact that I'm holding him. Anna said she didn't know, and then she yelled at me. It all happened so fast. Your weapon's in a safe place with all your prints, I told him, and he turned pale. What did you get her into? While Anna begged me to let him go. Brad tried to free himself, but he couldn't, and I clenched my fist and was about to paint his face, when Anna said that I had misunderstood everything. Brad tried to hit me again, so I did it first and he passed out. Anna began to cry, and I demanded an explanation. She begged him not to turn him into the police and said that his brother accidentally shot while playing with a gun and wounded a man. Brad tried to hide it, but she helped him. I asked her where he got it and why he almost ran us over on the road, and she said it was his stepfather's, and he was a criminal, but Brad's mother loved him, so she asked him to hide it. The stepfather's being tried. If he gets caught again, he'll be put in jail forever. She loves him, and Brad, he's protecting his little brother. His stepfather was in the car at the time. He was drunk and doesn't even remember driving. Anna said, as I was stunned, and then Brad came to his senses and told me the same thing. He begged me not to hand him over to the police, but I said I couldn't let it go. But I knew that my sister would also suffer for possession of a weapon. We told our parents, and they were horrified, but they thanked me for doing the right thing. Brad's stepfather was jailed for selling illegal things. Anna was interviewed, and Brad himself was also punished. He's now working out his allocated hours of community service. At first, Anna was angry, but then she promised not to get into any more trouble, or at least not to hide it from me. It's all over now. Tell me, guys, you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Don't forget to put likes, share the video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.